This week on Real Talk with Denver7 and CPR News, bringing new life to shuttered schools.
Knowing this was something that children used to rush and run into these hallways to be a part of, let's bring that back.
Fewer students mean Colorado districts have closed buildings. Now, who's stepping up to give those buildings a purpose?
Not just for the 7-year-old children, but maybe the 77-year-olds
and
everyone's in between.
Some old schools have new ways to serve people who live in their communities. And with more closings on the way, these ideas could be replicated.
Welcome to Real Talk with Denver7 and CPR News. I'm Colorado Public Radio's Nathan Heffel.
And I'm Denver7's Micah Smith. Each week in a partnership between Denver7 and CPR, we have a real talk about issues impacting underrepresented communities and amplifying voices you may not always hear.
And today, we're here at the former Paris Elementary School in Aurora. The school closed at the end of the 2023 school year and serves a much different purpose these days. It's been repurposed into a community hub with a focus on mental health and wellness for youth.
From the Front Range to the Western Slope, school districts are closing schools where there aren't enough students to enroll. In their place, organizations like this are finding ways to bring new life into facilities. We'll hear about the hub's work in just a minute.
So first, let's look at how we got here. In March of 2023, Colorado's largest school district, Denver, voted to close 3 schools: Denver Discovery, Fairview Elementary, and the Mathematics and Science Leadership Academy.
The state's second largest district, Jefferson County, has closed 21 schools since 2021. The reason is mostly the same across the board: rapidly declining enrollment.
Yeah, Jeffco lost more than 5,000 students between 2019 and 2022. Meanwhile, DPS expects 6,000 fewer students by 2028. So where are all the kids?
Well, turns out there just aren't the same number of young people as there used to be. Births have been declining in Colorado since 2007, and the effects are showing up in elementary and middle schools.
And this has forced school districts to make the difficult decision to close or consolidate some schools.
The districts then are left to decide what to do with empty buildings. Many of them end up being sold for different purposes. So this past summer, Jeffco sold the former Allendale and Zerger elementary school sites to Cardell Homes, a home builder that plans to build single-family homes where the schools once were. Other schools that have been closed in recent years don't have answers yet about what they'll become, and there could be more closures in coming months and years. So the questions of what to do with these sites will only get more important. In the case of Paris Elementary, multiple organizations joined together to breathe new life into the once quiet halls in Aurora this past summer.
Here to tell us more about a new community hub rooted in social determinants of health is Daniel Sampson of Driven by Our Ambitions, Dr. Janice Mackey with Young Aspiring Americans for Social and Political Activism, and Andre Carbonell, Apprentice of Peace Youth Organizations. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, Daniel, let's start with you. We are in a special part of this building, which includes a boxing gym, a barber shop. How do you use spaces like this to help address the mental health needs of youth in your community?
Just meeting the youth and men where they are. My company focuses on mental health and wellness for young adults, typically that are involved in the youth justice system, along with men of color. And backdrop of a barbershop, sometimes a space where we feel most open and willing to share some of our traumas and some of what we're going through. Same thing for the youth when it comes to boxing, music studio as well. Meet them where they are.
Turning a space that used to be a school into something different after it closed is so innovative. How has it felt to be a part of a space like this and giving new life to former Paris Elementary?
It's joyful. For me, this is home. This is where I was raised. A few blocks from here was the Boys and Girls Club I was at every single day of my youth years. So I know how valuable it is to have spaces that are meant for enrichment, empowerment for young folks. And knowing that this was once that at the heart of this community, it's necessary that we bring it back tenfold.
And Dr. Mackey, bringing you in here, can you tell us about how this collective began here and how the community responded to the closure and now this new purpose?
So Aurora Public Schools put out a request for proposals in late 2022. I was already running a all-black coalition in Aurora, and these fine gentlemen were a part of it. I knew we needed a space. I did not think we would need a school space, however, but as I was praying, God was like, you know what? You're going to go after this school. It just kept staying on my heart, but I knew I didn't want to go after it alone. And so hit up Driven by Our Ambitions and Apprentice of Peace, right? Daniel and Andre and Paz Ryan, and was like, we should do this together, right? Like we should rebirth this space together. And so hence the ABC Collective came forth. And so we decided to put in a bid to repurpose it. The board went with us, and we were able to prevent it from being given to a developer. And then November of 2023, Superintendent Giles made the executive decision to award ABC Collective with the bid to repurpose Paris Elementary School.
And Andre, what did that feel like when you got that notice that this is your space to do with what you need to do to uplift this community?
I mean, it was a moment of triumph, just to say the least, because just the road that it took, all the tribulations that happened in order to, number one, actively fighting gentrification as it's happening, and you know, this area being a product of gentrification and a lot of black and brown people being pushed out of Denver and pushed more here in Aurora, it gave us the opportunity to really do and provide what the community needed.
We'll talk a little bit about, Andre, about what your organization does and how it fits into this space.
Yeah, the Apprentice of Peace Youth Organization was established in 2013. Our two founders were originally doing Tai Chi in the park, and then they started doing Tai Chi for elders, and the elders were like, you need to do these for the kids. And so we slowly evolved from one school to 5 schools to around 27 schools right before COVID happened. Our organization is focused on developing students through a whole family approach using mentoring, career pathways, and enrichment programming.
And Daniel, your organization, Driven by Our Ambitions, you said there is that strong tie to mental health for males in the community. Talk a little bit about that and how this space lifts that up even more than possibly it would have been had you not received Paris Elementary, right?
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, we need to be willing to be open in spaces that make us feel most comfortable and vulnerable. And at the same time, we also want to be in spaces where we can be open and have a professional representative that looks like them as well. The big emphasis at this stage of what we offer is creating a pathway for more Black and Latino men to get into the mental health field, either through micro-credentials, either through certifications, or recognizing that their pathway to being a trusted professional in the mental health field is just right there for them. They just need to see themselves in it, as well as knowing that, hey, there's other avenues to approach mental health. You can use your places where you feel your authentic self. And I keep going back to that because that's what it is. Where you feel the most willing to be who you are will allow you to release and heal more effectively.
And Dr. Mackey, your organization works with social justice and things like that. How does your organization tie into a place like this? Because you're right in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So we focus on 4 pillars: academic, career, and civic efficacy, civic engagement, civic literacy, and racial identity development. And so we are very much about ensuring that our young people are getting paid for the work that they do in the community, whether it's community organizing, whether it's youth participatory action research, whether it's teaching. And so that's how we fit in. And we're also stewarding the space and ensuring that folks who come in as well are values aligned.
Outside, there are little letters that say, Paris forever. What does that mean for you? I mean, this is no longer really Paris Elementary, but there definitely seems to be that connection there still.
I mean, it's a space for growth, grace for a positive part of this community. That's what we are. And that's what this was. That's what this community needs. More outlets and spaces that represent something that's positive, invokes choice and change for betterment of young folks, families, and the community.
And to add on to that, I would like to say our work isn't centered in erasure. Like, we are not coming into communities and renaming these communities. We are here to be an addition, an additional resource to what once survived here. So we are the ABC Community Hub at Paris Elementary.
That is such an amazing way to say that this is your space, but it is a space that's existed for many years before you. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Micah, hearing from those three guests, and we're in this space, and the fact that this will always be Paris Elementary, no matter what is inside here, is just so amazing. And that kids, like they said, are coming in and out every day, and it's still a space for learning and community enrichment.
Even though a school is a building, it's much more than that, right? It's the laughter, it's the sound of feet running up and down the
Yes.
hall. And so to see the space reactivated, especially in this way, is so important to the community, to the spirit of the community, and just to everyone who even is driving by and seeing people still utilizing this building.
Yeah, yeah. And we're just getting started on this Real Talk at the site of a former elementary school here in Aurora. Coming up, we're talking to another organization hoping to turn a different former school into a resource center for its underserved community.
This is Real Talk with Denver7 and CPR News. Welcome back to Real Talk with Denver7 and CPR News. I'm Denver7's Micah Smith.
And I'm Colorado Public Radio's Nathan Heffel. Amid the backdrop of a national trend of tumbling student enrollments and brutal pandemic-era learning losses, there's a silver lining.
Some closed school buildings are being repurposed to serve their communities in new ways. In the Denver area, we've seen these facilities still being used for educational purposes, such as preschools, but sometimes they're sold off or used for other purposes like child care centers, housing developments, parking lots, or resource centers.
The Edgewater Collective is currently in the process of trying to purchase the former Mulholm Elementary School and turn it into a community center that provides resources for the entire community, but especially the Latino community.
So joining us now is Joel Newton, Executive Director of the Edgewater Collective. Joel, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start at the beginning. What is the Edgewater Collective and how did it get started?
So we began in 2013 when our family moved to Edgewater, enrolled our girls in our local elementary school in Edgewater, began to listen to parents and realized there was a need for a group to really come alongside parents, resource them, and advocate together for better education in that area of Jeffco Public Schools.
And so what are some of the resources you provide?
So right now we're really focused on education advocacy. In Jeffco Public Schools, about 35% of students are Latino, and there's a real big education gap between Latino students and white students, and we believe that's wrong, and we want to advocate together. And then we're working on helping Latino community members start their own businesses and then get involved in civic engagement.
Got it.
Joel, you've joked at a time about having white savior complex and trying to turn that around by really listening to the Latino community, their needs and wants. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's been a real journey for me, is really listening to the folks we work alongside. When we moved to Edgewater, I felt like I knew what the community needed. And in building relationships, being humble, I've really learned a lot from our Latina leaders, especially. And our role has really become, instead of kind of taking the lead, having them follow, listening to them, what are their hopes and dreams for the community, and how can we really resource those?
So how does Mulholm Elementary fit into this? And what is the process that you're going through to say this is a space we want to use?
So during the pandemic, we were really trying to bring folks together and meet needs as they came up. And part of that's been creating a community center space where our office is right now. And through that process, we really began to realize that our Latino families didn't have places in Jefferson County where they really were a part of the design, where the whole space was created with and for them. And so out of that, when Mulholm closed, we brought neighbors together to try and figure out what they wanted to see in that space. And then we began to realize Mulholm should really be used as a community center that really lifts up the hopes and dreams of the Latino community across Jefferson County.
So walk us through their wish list. What do folks living near Mulholm want to see?
I almost have to divide it because in the neighborhood surrounding, a lot of the homeowners are white. So they don't want to see the elementary school and the parkland turned into housing. That area of Colfax has been really gentrified. So the neighbors don't want big high-rise condos, apartments. But when we talk to our Latino families, they really want early childhood bilingual center, after-school programs that are designed for their children, and a space that really can be used by multiple nonprofits to meet the needs and the opportunities in the community.
So where are you in the process of buying this school? Is this almost wrapped up? Is it just beginning? Where are you at?
I would say we're at the beginning, the dream stage, but we're a small nonprofit. And part of this is telling the story of what we hope happens in that space to bring the right partners on board. So currently, Jeffco Public Schools has not put the building on their disposition list that they want to sell the building. We think that'll happen in the next year, but we believe we need a year to get the right people together, the right funders, and the right ideas from our community. So when Jeffco does decide to sell the building, we're ready.
Even though your programming is really Latino-centered, I just want to go back to the idea that this would be a center for all. Is that right?
That's a key part in a delicate dance we're doing. We really want it to be a space when our Latino students and families walk in, they feel like its home is created with and for them. But we also believe, just in the climate we're in, the space really needs to be inclusive. So in the national dialogue that's going on right now, where our immigrant communities are being demonized, we think there's a real importance to connect neighbors that have lived there for years with immigrant families so they can develop relationships, share stories, and find common ground, because we really need that these days.
Joel, when we were walking around Paris Elementary, here where we're doing the interview, I kind of noticed your eyes light up. Is that because you could potentially see what mole home might be? What were you thinking when you walked around this space?
I think I'm always looking for what are other folks doing and what can we learn from it. So the stories of both of our schools are similar in a lot of ways. And so looking around and seeing what this building looks like is much newer than Mulholm. But what does it look like for a former school building to maintain that sense of community, that space where kids and families can re-engage in the building? It's always exciting for me to see that happen.
All right, Joel Newton, the Executive Director of the Edgewater Collective, thank you so much for joining us for this Real Talk.
Thank you.
The issues of school closures goes beyond just public schools. Colleges have felt the impacts of low enrollment as well.
Coming up, how the campus of a former university in Denver is now serving a new purpose. This is Real Talk with Denver7 and CPR News.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Denver7 and CPR News. I'm Colorado Public Radio's Nathan Heffel.
And I'm Denver7's Micah Smith. We are here at the former Paris Elementary School in Aurora. You've heard so far this episode how some primary education buildings have been repurposed after being forced to close due to low enrollment.
But this issue isn't unique to K through 12 schools. Colleges and universities have dealt with this as well.
Johnson & Wales University in Denver closed in 2021, also due to low enrollment. Now the 110-year-old campus has transformed dramatically.
The site now operates as the Mosaic Community Campus and is home to many organizations serving the community with things like housing, the arts, and a gathering space.
There's also learning still happening there.
Yeah.
St. Elizabeth's K-8 school occupies one building, while Denver School of the Arts operates in another. There's also spaces for a kitchen network, Emily Griffith Technical College, and Dirt Coffee, which employs and empowers neurodiverse people.
Additionally, 4 former dorms on the Johnson & Wales campus have become low-cost apartments. Archway Communities operates the 154 1-, 2-, and 3-bedroom units.
Denver7 recently spoke to one of the newest residents at Archway. Dominique Tillman is a father of 3 girls, and he says the new space has been a game changer.
I love it. It's a lot bigger. It's peaceful. It's quiet. Girls got room to move around. Being able to be in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a lot of space so they can roam, run, really play was really key for us. And it's just great. There's great people around, and it's great to be around and see the positive energies that's coming through this place.
You know, Micah, having that space is so important to run and play, and being able to do it in such a beautiful space like this former campus really shows the benefit of repurposing these spaces for the community.
It absolutely does. The other big part of these apartments created from former dorm rooms is affordability.
Yeah.
Archway Communities gets help from the city of Denver and federal and state tax credits, so they can charge rent based on income.
And Tillman says he wouldn't be able to afford the same opportunities anywhere else.
It is very affordable for everything that you get with it, from the Excel to internet to the base rent of its own, all in one. You can't beat it anywhere. Most places for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath is probably going for average on the low end 27 to 3,500, and we pay 2,000, everything included.
I will tell you this, anecdotally, lots of my friends are paying 2,000 plus for 1 bedroom,
Right.
maybe 1,000 feet, maybe 1,000 square feet. So that is incredible to be able to get that amount of space in Denver.
In such a beautiful location as well. Yeah. Well, George Ann Barrett is the Director of Communications and Philanthropy for Archway Communities. She says stories like Tillman's and his family's are what makes this place so special.
It is, without question, the best part of this work. I've been working in the housing industry for about a decade, and I never get tired of seeing these really happy moments when families and their children can finally be in a stable and affordable place to live, and like you said, just have that burden taken off their shoulders.
And that is the beauty of this space, Micah. I shudder to imagine what would have become of this wonderful campus if it wasn't this space. It was torn down or maybe left to crumble or turned into, those general high-rise apartments that you're seeing across the community. And there are so many spaces across Metro Denver right now that are in the same exact spot that are being repurposed for a purpose. Isn't that true?
It's very true. When we talk a lot about all the construction happening downtown, I think there's a little bit of frustration from people who have lived here a long time, the natives, if you will. I know that term can be charged, but I will say this. Every time in my reporting I've done a story about the repurposing of space, there's a softening that happens. There's a curiosity that happens with neighbors saying, okay, so we're not tearing this down for luxury apartments. We're going to reutilize this space. Even if it's still apartments, the repurposing seems to bring the community together.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Bennett says Archway also offers services to residents.
And it can include everything from access to food to decreased food insecurity, access to mental health services, financial well-being. We do have what we call kids clubs, so after-school programming for children and youth. And really, we tailor our services to meet the needs of our residents.
Micah, these are purpose-built spaces. Elementary schools, a former university, but seeing that there's life in them as something else related to their former purpose shows the ingenuity a community can have when they are faced with the prospect of a closing school and creating these spaces.
Well, I think about we were in Paris Elementary. I read a plaque that said it was built in 2006. Mm-hmm. That is not that long ago.
Not that long ago.
This space is beautiful. It still feels new. I would be so sad as a community member to see it torn down. And I think that there are a lot of community members who would have felt the same way. So the fact that this group came together and said, let us repurpose this space, it's incredible. And it's just good to see. It feels good.
Well, like they said, Paris Elementary forever. It will continue and continue and continue.
And it certainly will.
Yeah. Well, that's this week's episode of Real Talk with Denver7 and CPR News. Every week, we have a Real Talk on issues that impact Coloradans who are often overlooked.
You can find all of our shows on denver7.com/realtalk or at cpr.org/realtalk. Have a great day.